So we are going to go ahead and start, and hopefully Alberto will make it in. And here we go. All right, welcome everyone. Tony Rodrigues, our very special guest today, and we absolutely love him. And why do we love him at Global Lightbridge? Because we've been watching him for years, and out of all of the people that we have heard speaking, specifically in the 20 and back, when I hear Tony speak, he really resonates with me as truth. And while I wasn't there with him, when he speaks, I hear the truth. So if you have not yet read his book, Series Colony Cavalier, this is the first book, and this tells you everything that you need to know to figure out what's going on with the 20 and back. It's amazing, and I highly recommend it. There's a follow-up book to that, Project Star Maker, where he goes deeply into it and also addresses other things that he didn't cover in the first book. And then his final book is Beyond Sight, where he really goes into working with the energetics, what the soul energy frequency is all about, things that he learned while he was being used in these programs. And he has his own technology and things that he's working on. I'm hoping he's going to tell us all about it tonight. So Tony, welcome. And you have the floor. Anywhere you want to go, just let us know.
I was looking for a pad to write my own little questions on. No, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here. I don't seek out speaking engagements. I really don't. All of the stuff that I've done has been people have asked me, and I'm happy to share everything that I can with people that ask, because it shows they're receptive. I'm not trying to get this out there for some other reason. It has turned into my profession. What began as me getting my memories back and being kind of, devastated by them and looking for help. And I knew at the time when I got all the memories back and I started to look online and see the places were real, that I remembered, and I thought, oh God, this is real. And I was in denial. I still wish it wasn't at times. But I knew at the point that it had a lot of gravity, and I needed to share it with people. I thought it was something. It's food for thought that people need to have, to think about, especially with the world today. And so I reached out with researchers and to share with people what I knew. And I did an interview, and one thing led to another. And I did interviews on YouTube. I did Gaia for better part of 6 years, and never did really anything other than answer questions. People asked me and said, "Tell me your story." And then when I wrote the book, it kind of changed my life. The book did well, but it opened up the door to a lot of things. And I quickly wrote the second book a year later, and I started doing live talks. And it garnered attention into my Patreon community. And between that and the books and a few other side things that I've been good with, this has become my profession. This is what I do. I do consultations for literally thousands of people that legitimately believe they went through the same thing. So I'm not just some individual. This isn't an individual phenomenon. This happens to literally thousands of people. And that's been the substance of my live talks this year, is sharing the statistics of all the people. They all have common denominators, so let me believe that they're legitimate. But talking about it, and then my third book, Beyond Sight, that I wrote was after I went to one of the places. I went to the Inyokern facility in person. So, imagine waking up one day and having memories of living for 20 years. And then having memories of living in towns in America and in South America that you've never heard of. And you go online on the internet, go, whoa, the town is there. Just how I remember it. What? And then years later, physically going there, and it was exactly how I remembered. I found the exact building. I walked in it. I stood in the spot, and it inspired a lot of new memories. It filled a lot of blanks. It jogged my memory. And I started researching the paper trail of the program that I remember, and lo and behold, there's a lot there. And so that's what I put into Beyond Sight. The first stop was remote viewing and psychoenergetics, advanced research, and they were using kids, because an adult mind is a kind of a full cup, if you will. And they were going for the absolute. They thought they told the doctor that we were clones. We were kids. We were clones. Maybe we were clones. I don't know the tech really.
Mm.
Um, but that's what they said, and I went through it, and I remember a great deal of it. And when I go back, and it's something that's evidence, very supportive evidence. There's no way I could have known the things. We went back there and filmed a documentary. The documentary will be out later this year. And there's no way I could have known what I knew about the place and those buildings if it wasn't real. Like, there's just no way. And then when I went and started really tugging at the remote viewing techniques that I remembered from that time, it was advanced. And with the other stuff they do, I've uncovered dream warfare. So they are remote influencing is a thing that came out of the research and development. And it turns out that influencing somebody in their dream with remote viewing methods is highly effective, and that's what they're doing still today. So,
Tony, I have a question. You said that the children clearly, and I understand that, are can be used more easily. And we know that there are a lot of missing children right now. And I know that they're also being used for many different things. Do you think some of them are being taken and just never coming back in a program like this?
absolutely, absolutely, all day long. The numbers are staggering when we talk about children, and when we talk about I don't like to speak about politics or religion to an open audience. I'd like to let you guys make it all up for yourself. But when we talk about a political mechanism that enabled children to come into the country and disappear, and we had tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of kids that came over the border recently and disappeared. There's no record. And so we see an apparatus, an official apparatus, a governmental level apparatus that enabled children to be taken into these programs, into other programs, into organized crime, you name it. But these programs absolutely would rather have children. So if you were a military entity, and the military doesn't believe in good or evil, it believes in the mission, accomplishing the mission, whether no, by all means necessary. So we as civilians have the luxury of good and evil. We have the luxury of saying, you can't do that. That's bad for human rights. We have a huge luxury in this. But in a military sense, when the other military is willing to do whatever it takes to destroy you, you have to do whatever it takes to defend. And this is the mindset. As sick as it is, this is the existing mindset. And when they say we need the absolute ability to defend ourselves against psychic spies, and they're using kids and they're having better results because kids are psychic anyway. People are a psychic. Everybody has these abilities until you're told that you don't have these abilities. So children have these things, and we tell them, no, no, that's not, people don't see through walls, honey. And they go to school and we get that programming, and then it goes away. You just don't think about it. So they wanted to start with children because adults have already all been programmed and have a full mind of front loading data to think of. So anyhow, they had to match. I found there's paperwork in that book in Beyond Sight. There's a document that shows they were fully aware that the Chinese had had children as remote viewers, and this was a matter of national security. So they took kids into the program, and that's what happened. And I'm one of them. So I hear a lot of people, the remote viewing community is fragmented at best. And there are people that came from the Stargate program and the old timer guys that have been doing it for 30 years, 25 years, remote viewing, and they don't want to hear anything. But the reality is, they're not the first people to do it. Like, it was long before Project Stargate, there were these programs. And you deal with a lot of egos around it, but remote viewing is just the tip of the iceberg. It's the doorway to many other abilities. And we found it. So I work on it. I do it every week.
Tony, you had mentioned, I think it's in Beyond Sight about, I know that some of the things that you offer are ways to protect and develop and all of these things you're talking about. And when they were taking you in Peru and using you to be channeled, you said you went up on a plane and they wrapped you in a Faraday fabric. Can you talk about that a little bit more? And I think you had
Yes.
mentioned that it's something you can do to protect yourself.
The program, the program ended up with bringing us to near death. So it ended up with near death experience. So we had learned many different ways. We did out of body. The Monroe Institute had security clearance. I have the receipts for that. That's also in the book. We were using the Monroe Institute out of body programming. So this is 1982. And we were doing experiments with not only the binaurals, but with drugs they were giving us and other things. Um, where it ended was near death. So they hooked us up to a machine and they put us in a oxygen tent and they fed us an inert gas until we almost suffocated. And when we had a near death and they'd give us oxygen, we'd come back. There was like a little bell, an alarm that went off, and it repeated. And I remember the process quite well. And I remember at some point I spoke like an adult, "Hey, let this kid die." And they said, "Doctor, here we got one here." And that was the end. They let me go. And so once that began, then came in the method that I was sent to Peru. So in Peru, from the town of Puerto Tawantinsuyo, Peru, in the river town inside the Madre de Dios region, the jungle, we they were gathering cocaine paste was being produced in the jungle, and once a month or so, when they had a plane load, they would load it up and they would take me on the plane, wrap me in a silver mesh Faraday fabric to protect me from the plane's instruments. So we had huge EM interference. And we find the results in a Faraday environment favorable for remote viewing as well, currently. But they would give me a drug. I got an IV to my arm, and be put, I would be unconscious. It was a near death experience. While I was under, the fellow that was there, who was basically my chaperone, my handler, whatever you're going to call it, he would tell me after I woke up that other people that I spoke fluent Spanish, that he talked to his grandmother, that he talked to other people. He had accurate information about the weather, whether the police were there, when to show up. It was a security system for the plane. They had a psychic in a bottle and they were running drugs. And this is why the war on drugs was unwinnable because they were using this technology. You know, what do you do when when there's a psychic on board the plane that knows to turn left at the right time and avoid your detection? So this is exactly what was going on. And after the first maybe half dozen times that I was under, I had no memory. I woke up with no memory, feeling sick, and no memory of what happened, just like being put under for a surgery. But after a while, I began to remember what it was like on the other side, and that's where I got most of the substance for the second book, Project Star Maker. And I don't know, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by about protecting yourself, but I've worked in countermeasures. As far as I know, I'm the first person publicly to have demonstrated remote viewing countermeasures. So there are ways to obscure remote viewing. So you can think it's kind of creepy if somebody can. A lot of I've had people write me like women, like, are men going to be looking at me? Remote viewing, like it's not like that. It's not a periscope. It's not a video feed. But it is a creepy feeling. I have, I'll have a pop can, and that'll be the target. The pop can on my desk for the remote viewers, and they'll describe all kinds of things in the room that I would rather them not know. Well, it's really messy in the corner, and they describe things around the target more often than the actual target without a monitored session. And
Mm.
so the countermeasures was something that I remember. That's what we were studying in Ukraine. That was the reason for the funding. And that's one of the things. I don't know if that pertains to your question or not, but there are countermeasures and there are a lot of methods to do this. And this turned into psychoenergetics. So they figured out how to psychically attack people as well from the
And I
program.
guess that was my question. Is there a way to prevent the whole psychic attacks? Because as you know, fear is the biggest problem that we have going. And we're constantly being hit with everything and it makes everyone fearful. And then this just adds the truth that they need to know so that they can actually pull themselves out of the fear, makes them even more afraid. And so I was just wondering when you're presenting this, it's like, does it just, well, then it's a free for all and we can be taken at any time, or kids can be taken at any time. They're going to attack us in our sleep. The next question would be help. What can
As
we
far
do?
as as far as the abductions, I don't think that they abduct a lot of people. As far as psychic attack or psychic things, which I got a big education, and when I hit the road talking on the live lecture circuit, There are people that are doing hexes on you, and there's all kinds of stuff in the community. They're very dark people that are attracted to the fringe stuff, and they're very credible sources that the government doesn't want us to be well, so they infiltrate the speakers community. These events are infiltrated by disinfo agents and from people that are doing bad things. Psychic attacks have many different things, and the black magic attack, people are casting spells and invoking. I like to call them non-transferable waves. So people that died that weren't ready to die, that have some kind of negative thing, and they're kind of stuck in between being alive and dead. So it's a long thing that we talk about it in our groups a lot, but those are the entities that black magic really work with, and they offer them kind of false hope, and then make you their target, and then you have an entity on you. So that seems to be how a lot of the black magic works, and there are defenses against that. And then the hoaxes, and it all starts with one very simple principle. They want to disrupt you. You're energetically. They want to walk up to you. Somebody's going to cast a spell on you or do something, or any of these attacks, even on the government level. They're going to start with something to make you upset. So, oh hi, you're looking really great. Too bad there's a stain on your shirt, and your energy immediately goes, oh no, I need to be. You immediately contract. Your energy output, your field contracts, and you feel embarrassment or something like, oh hi, it's good to see you. I heard so and so passed away, and your best friend or somebody. Oh really? And it hurts, and so your energy field contracts, and now they're inside. And then they do it again, and you know what? They passed away, and they didn't. They told me the last thing they said, they were still mad at you, and your energy field now goes negative, goes in, and you're like, wait, is that real? Even if it's only for a split second, but now they can access the inner field and implant something quantum in there. So the defense against it is something like really easy to do. One layer of defense. There are many things you can do. I'm not going to cover them all in 10 minutes, but the easiest one to do, which is also very hard to do, is to maintain a positive energy output. And I call it the new shoes. So, do you remember when you were in school, the first day of school, and you had brand new shoes, right? Those shiny white Nike shoes, your first day of school, and you felt like you belonged there. So, I don't know about you, but I was terrified to go to school around all the other kids. I got bullied. There were girls broke my heart. The teachers didn't like me. I was withdrawn. I was emotionally messed up. I was terrified of school. But when I had on new shoes, I kind of felt like I belonged there. We weren't the poor family. We could afford new shoes, and I kind of had a strut for a day or two. That output, that mindset is all you need to do. If you can shift gears in the midst of somebody attacking you energetically, if you can shift gears in somebody in the midst of insulting you or embarrassing you or reminding you of something terrible, if you can shift gears and withstand that and say, yeah, but I got new shoes on. And it's not to give, it's not to take away. If somebody did pass away in your life and somebody reminds you of it, it's not to give them disrespect, but you have to understand that it's an attack when it's out of place. So when that energy, when your energy field is disrupted, you need to immediately balance out and go to a place of positive output and ascertain if there's an attack nearby. During a remote viewing session, during a meditative session where we do healings, we do all kinds of stuff. During any of these sessions, that mindset is crucial. So once you get into it, so in a remote viewing session, when you're probing data and you're actually mining data, the longer the session goes on, the more data you're privy to. And you can interact with people that are remote viewing it on the other end. And it can become very much a mental battle. There can be attacks, there can be things, depending on the value of the target. And I always tell people we were taught in the program in Inyokern, so in my book Beyond Sight and in series content on that, in this program, we were taught that you had to use your imagination to defeat an attack. So if you imagine, so Alexa, I'll pick you, right? So we're gonna have a psychic attack today, and I'm just, oh, you're just burning me up. You're website is just trashing me and making me look bad. I got to do something about it. I'll run you through we'll go do hypothetical scenario, right? Your website's just tearing me up, making me look so bad that I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna make you feel embarrassed. I'm gonna focus all of my intent, and I'm gonna do my little ritual and throw salt, whatever it is, and pour goo on the ground and smear poo or whatever they do. The cauldron of bat leaves, bat wings, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. It comes in many different forms. But I'm gonna do all that, and I'm gonna attack you tonight, unbeknownst to you. And I meditate and I go into this thing and I imagine you, my imagery is I imagine you stubbing your toe on the door and hurting your toe. And all of a sudden you're meditating at the same time and you go, man, somebody's out there is out to get me. And you feel this feeling of dread. That's it. It's only in a very simple emotional feeling. You go, and my feet it feels like my feet are not safe. There's
Mm.
something odd about my feet. Now is your cue to use your imagination to say, well, I'm going to put on steel shoes. I'm in an attack. This feels like an attack. I'm going to wear steel shoes and I'm going to put on a coat that's very durable and I'm going to keep my new shoes menu power up. And then I go, wow, she broke the shoe that bounced right off. I'm getting nothing. I feel nothing on the other end now. And I feel so it's your imagination. So now I have to imagine something else. So now I got to imagine the ceiling is calling. Now your room is getting smaller. Now your ceiling is lowering on you, causing claustrophobic feelings. That's my attack now. And you go, well, I'm just going to shrink. And now the room is the size of a gymnasium because I'm only this big. And I'm going to turn into gas and go out under the crack of the door and go to another room. And now I'm flying out in the sky. Mentally, what we were taught in Inyo Kern was that whoever has the greatest imagination wins in one of these energetic things.
Oh,
You can always imagine yourself ending up in a positive flow of energy. You win, and you have so I tell people all the time. Students, we're talking about this because it's hypothetical. It doesn't happen often, and this is a high level of psychoenergetic interaction. It's a high level when you get to that point. But the idea is that if we're in a mental battle and I imagine you in a cage, then you become gas and come out. Then I put you in
mm.
that's the doggy, put you in a glass. I now instead of if you're going to turn into gas and get out through the cracks, I'll put you in a glass bubble. Now you turn into light and shine out the cracks. Oh, what do I do now? So I'm going to make you small and make me big. Like it's whoever has the most. When you lose the imagination, you lost the fight. And that's how that
Is
works.
that why children are so valuable? Because their imaginations are like on fleek.
Boom. Wow. I hadn't thought about that, but you're
Yeah.
right. But absolutely. Because adults, our imaginations are limited to what we think about the day-to-day life. We have set engrams and what do you call it? Neural pathways. Our neural pathways are more defined, where children don't. They're more fluid. They're open to anything. So it's yes, absolutely. That's absolutely the case.
And we have the filter of our reality too.
Yeah.
What's real, what's not
Yeah,
what's out there.
yeah. Most people, like I said, when I say I put you in a glass cage that you turn into light and shine through it, most people are shocked by that. They go, "What? You can't do that." Wait, you can't do
Can't
that,
do anything.
right? And
It
it's when
feels
you're
like
in
a
that medium, the fourth D or whatever you want to call it, the dream world. Imagine we're dreaming. And this is real. And so we can inject the dream warfare studies are out there. There are books about it. The government did this. They can inject and manipulate you through dreams. Somebody can visit you in your dream and be a character in your dream and tell you things to do. And it can be completely artificial, lucid on their end, and a seemingly a powerful dream on your end. And they can put information and suggestion in your mind. And
Do you
adults,
think, Tony, that this is being done en masse or target specific?
so far, I think it's target specific. I think they may have an en masse version that's watered down. But when we talk about complex messaging, complex interaction with a very profound feeling. Let's face it, some dreams are very numb. You had a dream, I don't remember, it was boring. It was weird. It was a weird dream. I was just walking and then I was floating and then it was over. And then you have other dreams that are extremely precise and loud, bright and vibrant. You have dreams that are very, very strong. And the individual targeted ones can do the strong dreaming. So en masse, I think that's electrical. And I think they do better by interrupting your dream cycle than influencing it.
Hmm.
All right, we're in another tangent. We're not talking about 20 and back here, but we are. Because all of the information that I just shared with you, I learned it as a 10-year-old child in Inyokern. So if I wasn't in a 20 and back, how did I know all this classified stuff that I found that's barely been declassified? Barely been declassified, a lot of it. How am I so good at it if it never happened? I learned it all as a 10-year-old in Inyokern. And then I have proof that I never left my home in Ypsilanti, Michigan. So I have my mom and my family, my sister and brothers. They all knew that I did it. I never went to Inyokern, California. I never went to Seattle, Washington. I never went to Peru, in Puerto Tawantinsuyo, Peru, or Santa Marta, Colombia. These are places I remember and I have great detail and great memories of. So what I'm saying is one thing leads to another, which leads to proving the 20 and back phenomenon is real.
And Tony, you know, a lot of us, we have experiences, and so we understand in these possibilities and truths. But a lot of people, you know, as you know, when you talk to them, they don't have that, and they're still looking for facts. And you have quite a few of them. And one of the ones that I found most impressive was the NASA and the SALT. Can you talk about that?
So there's still people debating Ceres. So Ceres, which is spelled Ceres, is a small planetoid in between Mars and the asteroid belt. It's technically the largest asteroid. I remember in my time in space, after in the 20 and back, I was sold off to the military, which went into the solar system. I went to the moon and then to Mars, and there's quite a bit of people living on underneath the ground on Mars. There's a infrastructure there. And I was in a program that was canceled and then retrained and then sold to the Ceres Colony Corporation. So, and I lived on Ceres. So that's what I remember. My testimony, Ceres Colony Cavalier in the book, for about 12 years, better than a decade, I lived inside Ceres that with about 250,000 other people and worked with ETs and on ships. Um, I remember very vividly working on a ship. I was a cargo engineer, and they announced over the loudspeaker one day that the geyser was going off, that we were going to fly on it, and everybody could take 10 minutes and go to the observation port and witness it. And we would be flying over it. They said, 15 minutes from now, we're going to be flying by the geyser. Everybody has an okay to take a break and go. And I did. The main observation window was a crowd of people. I couldn't see. The big window was full of people, and so I was farther back down the hallway. I don't talk about this part of the story very often, um, if you'll give me the time. And I stood by the smaller porthole window. It was a smaller window to look outside, and there was an officer next to me. And what it was in the Okator crater. I'm pronouncing it correct. Okator crater on Ceres. There was a geyser that was. They said that it goes randomly every 6 to 9 years. So on a from the time it goes off, at least 6 years or before 9 years, somewhere in that window, it goes off again. It's a natural geyser. The water goes up about 10, 11 kilometers into space and then evaporates. And what's left over is salt and magnesium, and it snowed back down. And it was the most beautiful thing. Because it's in microgravity, it snowed down in different speeds. So the outside of it was moving faster than the inside of it. And it was glorious. Look, it was one of the most beautiful things. My entire life, when I came back, I had the memory of this instant. I always had this memory. It was not deleted. When the Dawn probe was getting close to Ceres in 2016, Dr. Michael Salla from exopolitics.org asked me, what are the white spots? And I said, when I saw the pictures, I said, that's salt. I remember. The officer next to me at the porthole, I said, look at it. And is meters deep of it. It's salt, white, bright white salt. and it's deep. I mean, it's massive. It's a massive amount, a desert of it. And I said, there's got to be something we could do with it. And he was joking. He said, well, you can get out without your spacesuit and go down there and scoop it up and bring it back in here, and you might be able to take a nice bath. He said, there's nothing we can do with it. I said, there's so much of that material. It seems like we could use it for something or trade it, sell it. And he said, you might be able to scoop it up and have a good bath. There's just a little bit of magnesium in there. It's salt. It's just salt. It's worthless. And so I remembered that conversation, and Dr. Sala asked me, what is that? And I said, that's salt. And I don't know, a couple weeks, a month later, NASA released in 2016, the Dawn probe was in a high orbit around Ceres. And the initial scans, they came up with it being sulfur and a cocktail of minerals. And he said they released their paper. It said we're early indications that it's sulfur. And Dr. Sala emailed me and he said, Tony, he sent me the article. He said, this is what NASA is saying. Do you want to retract your statement that it's salt? And I said, absolutely not. If there's one thing I remember is that geyser and that guy telling me that it was salt down there, and that you could take a bath. There's salt and magnesium, a slight amount of magnesium. If there's one thing I remember out of the entire 20 years was that. And I said, absolutely not. I will not retract my statement. I don't care what NASA says. And this was in 2016. August 10th, 2020, the Dawn probe was in a lower orbit, and they did a proper scan and released the article that it was briny salt, and I was confirmed. And so that was 4 years ahead of time. So that's a nice bit of it felt really good when that happened. But it's a very difficult thing for somebody, for me or anybody else like me, that has got to have any kind of validation, let alone in space. I'm fortunate because the first 6 or 8 years I was on the Earth, I had Seattle and Kern and South America. And so I could go to places and drum up some proof and evidence. And I've really have. I've been to the places in Seattle and in Kern, and there was, I mean, you have to really work at disproving to debunk what I found there. I called things out before I knew could have possibly known they existed. And everything is lined up across the board. All the circumstantial stuff, it's like 100% for years. It's been 10 years. But the space thing, that in series, that ability, how could I have known that? Right? So how could anybody have known that at the time in 2016? And I also was not doing any remote viewing. Believe me, I was working 2 jobs. I was the father of 3 kids living on Maui after I lost everything in the recession. I was working for very little pay. I was barely struggling to get by. I did not have time to do things like worry about Ceres and salt, and before the NASA came out with anything. So I don't know. I just offer that as a piece of validation. I wouldn't speak publicly about this crazy stuff if I didn't have some kind of proof to stick up for myself. It's embarrassing. A lot of it's embarrassing.
Which leads me to this question. I think about it all the time. How do you find the strength to stand up when for one small thing people will ridicule you and call you all kinds and just and you have so much and you just solidly kept going forward? That strength is like, I admire it so much. You're a lot. I like to think of myself as strong, but I was just telling Alberto earlier, I'm like, dude, there's just no way. I don't think I could do it. And we admire you so much. So
A
how?
lot of people say that to me. We admire you're so strong, but really it was just stupid. So
Oh,
the first interview, I honestly thought nobody would see it, and I was going to do one interview, and I was going to be in the record. Like I thought my testimony was going to be a supporting testimony in the record among other people that are up front in the field that were doing better than me at the time. And I sat down for my first interview. I had given it no thought and was in the middle of moving. And I sat down on the chair and he's setting up the camera and I had no idea. And he said, "Do you want to use a fake name? Do you want to make up an alias so that, you can go away if you want?" And I thought of aliases and I thought, uh, Johnny or, Marco, or I was thinking of all these names and I thought, then I'm going to have to answer to it. And then if I don't, if I get sick, I really don't like being called anything other than Tony, to be fair. And I thought if I get sick of it and change it later, it'll make me look like I'm lying.
Mm.
Better to just be myself. And to be fair, my name is Michael Anthony Rodrigues. I've always gone by Tony my whole life. But my name is, and I open up my live acts saying that for the set the record because I felt like being genuine. I have to show my. There's a lot of people out here that are witnesses that don't want to show their face, and or they have a fake name. It's so and so Pleiadian. You know what I mean? Like make another name, and to me, that's already starting from a place of deception. And so I just wanted to be honest. I know how important it is for what I'm saying to be taken seriously, and I did. And the other, I have had some pretty horrendous attacks over the years. The things that hurt was when my kids were attacked in school over it. I saw your dad on YouTube, and my kids got harassed in school, and that was really painful. Me personally, I had some pretty glorious attacks last year that were very powerful, very well thought out, and very bad character assassination stuff. But what these people aren't realizing is that I don't have any shred of pride. I don't go ahead and call me a piece of crap. I'll agree with you. One guy called me a moron. I said, "Yep, I might be a moron, but I have my emotions intact." And so I just lean into it. If people don't like me, you have every right to not like me. I would encourage you to have every reason to be skeptical of me. I'll say it to the camera. You should be skeptical of the things I've put in my books and go research it for yourself. And it will become food for thought, and it will expand the way you're seeing the world. The world's a mess today. And the reason is because the major component of why the world works the way it does is the secret space program and the ETs. And they wouldn't fight to keep it away from us if it wasn't pinnacle. And so be skeptical and hate me, whatever. No one's going to agree politically, spiritually, financially, all across the board. No one's going to ever agree. And if you don't agree with me, I love you anyway. That's great. But I'm saying the things that I've proven and the things I've brought forward, I just want to be food for thought for people. When the first time people hated me online, it really bothered me. But then I thought about it and I said, you don't have to like me. I can't tell you that. How dare you not like me? You know what I mean? Like, what does that say? You have every right to not like me, and that's cool. And I just lean into it, and it hasn't been painful. So,
I can also imagine that in the beginning, you weren't quite as strong because it was like, whoa, what am I thinking? How is this happening? But then when more and more people were like, yeah, me too, me too. And you're like, oh my God, it's like validating and giving you strength, giving them strength. I could see that
in the beginning, a
happening.
lot of the research also that I had, I was researching a lot in my spare time to prove it. So I was learning about things that I remembered and asking people. I hired a private eye at one point. I made calls to places like every little detail I tried to chase down. I feel there's a burden of proof.
Mm.
And so in the beginning, I didn't have all that I do now. And I would wake up and then you go back to your life. I worked a 9 to 5 the whole time and I'd go to work and go on with my life and deal with people. And yeah, that'll be 1995 and do my thing. And then I would go home and go, oh, I got an interview tonight and go, oh God, that happened. Did it? Did I really go through all that? And I'd play back the memories, everything in my head before an interview, and I'd play it back and I'd go, God, it has to have happened that way. There's just so much, and you can't think of it all at once. There was a point, recent in a few years, maybe 3, 4 years ago, where I just quit doing that. And I was like, there's just so much evidence now. And even now, I'm running companies I've started companies that are reverse engineering the things I remember, the learning, the school up there, and the audio up there. A lot of the things I'm reverse engineering, and damn if they don't work.
Mm.
So that's another thing. Like, say I'm crazy, and they're all The popular attack is screen memory. They gave you fake memory. They downloaded these memories into you, Tony. And I go, that's great. Well, why wouldn't they do that to somebody that actually mattered? Why a floor guy? Why a wood floor refinisher from Michigan? Why would they do that to me so that I could come on and talk to over a course of 10 years a few 100,000 people? Why would aliens waste that kind of time? That's my answer to the screen memory thing. Because who knows? It could be screen memory. Who knows? But why would they do that? What is the net result of it? Because the juice isn't worth the squeeze on that theory. It just isn't. For them to take me and do that, it's just a waste of their time. And I don't think aliens waste their time on humans.
Hmm. Wow. I'm just like speechless. It's just giving me so much food for thought. It's like everyone is, because things are so chaotic right now, and everyone agrees that nothing makes sense. So when I present these concepts to them, such as, where did this rocket come from that can suddenly turn around and set its ass down on the platform when we used to just crash into the ocean, and no one seems very concerned about it? And where do you find these rocket scientists when you're not even a rocket scientist? And it's like the government's just going to allow you to like grab them and shoot rockets up in the air and fly around. And why are you so focused on bringing all the people to Mars? We've never been near Mars. How about just getting to Mars? Or how about putting people on the moon? Like, why are we shooting for Mars all of a sudden? And they're like, yeah, it's like the concepts have never gone through their head because, they're kind of turned down to really thinking, right? And so I'm like, so as crazy as it sounds, what I'm saying actually makes some sense, doesn't it? And they're like, yeah. But then what happens is once they realize that's making sense and they realize the truth, let alone looking at your gigantic story, they panic and then they shut right back down. But that's why I think it's so of the moment, because they're ready. They know it's bullshit and they're trying to peek through the blinds and take in a little bit at a time, as much as they're able to, some more than others, some faster than others. But they know it's so in your face. Like you said, the open border, people that were so, for that party, but still were critical thinkers. And they hey, JFK, woo, good things, they really like that they came to me and they were like, hey, that's not what I signed up for. They were able to see that this is not a good thing and people are going to get hurt, and they didn't want that. But I don't know how you erase the programming that allows you to even consider the fact that that's not happening, that the whole thing is a lie. No one's running across the border. I mean, I want to know, I guess, from your perspective and all that you know, what do you have to say about the current times? Do you have any more thoughts about that?
We're under heavy programming. I mean, it was one of the last bills of the Obama administration made it legal for the CIA to use its technology, its psychological warfare unit that it used on other countries, to topple other countries, to make people incensed and overthrow their own government. That's a technology we've been doing it for decades. And at the end of the Obama administration, they passed a law that they could use it on the American people. And so we see people that absolutely hate America, that the American flag is hated in America. So this is a technology of psychological programming from the psychological warfare division, and it's very effective. This programming works. We've been programmed our whole lives. There's no two ways about it. And one example, I'll give you a good example. They have released film of what they call UAPs. So we have congressional hearings, and most people don't even care. Really, most people seriously don't even care. They've renamed UFO to UAP. Why would they do that? Because for decades we were programmed to laugh at UFO. In order to unprogram it, they just rebranded it and they call it a UAP, and it's a brand new conversation. It's the same exact thing that's been happening since the Roswell, since the 40s. It was a UFO. But every time you went to the checkout line in the store and you were looking at the recipe book, there was a National Enquirer right there with UFO and space aliens ate the Queen's baby and all these ridiculous things, and black magic runs the president, Truman came back from the grave. all these crazy, ridiculous stories, and they had UFO, UFO, UFO. Every time you ever went through the story, and this is just one point that it came from. It was on many points. We're programmed to laugh at UFO. I saw a UFO last night, and you automatically have a tinge of laughter. You already have a tinge of that sounds crazy because they bombarded us for our whole life, my whole entire life. And then now that they want to declass it, they can't declassify UFOs because the whole public it'll cause a mass psychosis. So they just rebranded it. Now it's called a UAP. There's no programming for UAPs. And so that's just one thing. We've been programmed on all of the media are holy. You gotta have to realize that even Bugs Bunny was psychological programming for us. Elmer Fudd and Bugs Bunny, and
All of that. All
everything.
TV, movies, all of
Mhm.
that for sure.
The programming's real. It's the best weapon. Do you know who? So I'm trying to create homeschooling with the technology of how I went to school on Mars. It was way better. It should be faster. It's under development. I have an AI engineering team. We have app development. It's a psychological adaptive media learning system. It's very promising. Put it that way. Um, so I started looking at ways to get accredited so that I could make a high school program for homeschooling. So obviously I want to sell to everybody. I want to be marketable. I want the company to be profitable, and my average customer should be a school person, especially if this is a faster, better way of learning. So I said, what do I got to do to start homeschool to be accredited? Who determines what where the bar is to be a high school graduate? Who is the body that determines the curriculum that you must know and pass to become a graduate? Have you seen this in any of my interviews? Do you know who it is?
Mm-mm.
You would think that it's the US Department of Education. It is not. You would also think that if it was not the US Department of Education, you would logically assume that it was somebody in education. Harvard, you know,
Is it the Department of Defense?
it's the
That's who I
US
was
Department of
thinking.
Defense. It's the
I
United
heard
States.
you say that in an interview. It just came into my brain. That's
Jeez.
insane. How did you discover that in your search for getting
Go ahead.
certified?
It's the score. It's called SCORM, SCORM, and it's the SCORM score. And this is what determines your proficiency in high school. And
Wow.
I looked at who is the SCORM. Go ahead and you can go find this yourself. Not only is it the U.S. Department of Defense that does the SCORM score for the United States kids, the SCORM score is global. It's everybody.
Mm,
Everybody in the first world countries, all across Europe and the United States and in Asia, it's the United States Department of Defense that is determining what your kids are seeing in school. So when we talk about all the gender studies and all that stuff that came out, it's the United States Department of Defense is where this came from. The Department of Education began so that they could enforce these crazy things. And they took the funding away. They took the individual funding away from the states and made it a federal fund. That was the Department of Education that Trump broke up recently.
And
So,
now it's called the Department of War.
well, the department, right now it's the Department of War that tells your kids all of your school curriculums. You want to know why, though? I I got to tell you, I sat down and I was making a demo for an investor for the Maple Street for the learning, and I had to write a lesson, and I was doing, I think sixth grade or eighth grade astronomy lesson. So I was just trying to demonstrate the learning, the method. There's a lot of work putting those things together, but halfway through it, I had choices. Do I go with this one or do I go with that one? So the book said one thing, and then I had imagery and pictures to do, and I could pick Mars to talk about. I could pick Saturn to talk about. I could pick whatever I wanted. And I felt godlike. I thought, this is incredible power. This is incredible
mm,
power to think that this is what all the hundreds of thousands and millions of kids would believe what I'm writing right now for the rest of their life. Millions of
right.
kids could potentially believe what I am personally writing for the rest of their life. This is extreme power. Your education that we just put our kids as a babysitter to us. My kids
Mhm.
went to school and came home with horror stories, and I was like, suck it up. I went to school and people got killed where I went to school, so you guys got it lucky. That was what I told my kids. I said, you're in an area that's not even violent. So I went to school and feared for my life. You're not even in a violent area, so just suck it up, man. Big deal. It's what I told my kids. The reality is that they've been weaponized. It's a weapon. It's the most powerful weapon that there possibly is. Because we believe everything, even if you don't believe everything from school, you still are living in a world that's based on everything they taught you in school. And so,
We trust them.
yeah, the winner writes the history. Especially at school, it was like heavy on history, and none of it was fun. And history is fun. To be fair, I'm a huge history, like I enjoy history now, looking at things, but the history in school was a bunch of BS. It had made no sense. Really. They
Hmm.
had rewritten it because they rewrote it. It wasn't true. And so that's where we're at. That's in our world that we're living in. And I think it's important shows like this and what we're doing, the stuff that we're doing, we have access to on the internet, thank God, because it was censored. Look at all the censorship we went through. I went behind a paywall. I did 400 YouTube shows, 300 to 4, three, like in the high 300s, YouTube shows. They're out 90 minutes to 2 hours each. And by 2020, because there was somebody that was a fan in the beginning, and he made a website that had all the links. He said, every time you ever do a show, give me the link. I'll put it on this website, and that way you'll have all your shows there. And it was over 300, coming up on 400 shows. And in 2020, in a few days, they all disappeared. Half of them then disappeared. Half of the links were not there anymore, just gone. And this is a lot of effort. I
Wow.
mean, I enjoy talking to you guys. I'm honored, pretty ladies, right? So who's going to complain? I enjoy doing this. It's not a labor, but it still is a lot of work. It was a body of work that just disappeared. And so right now we have the luxury of speaking freely, but it's only, you know what I mean? Like we had it really infringed, and this information, the what stuff we're talking about is difficult. I learned to sidestep the pandemic subject matter and the stuff, the political subject matter, the election results, all that stuff. You had to sidestep that. We lost our First Amendment right in that time. And
Mhm.
so right now we have a unique window, and I think we have an obligation to share everything we can right now. Like that's what I'm
Mhm.
doing ultimately. Like I said, my kids, you know, what I'm doing now, since I've been telling my story, we took some hits. It wasn't easy. There's a cost to everybody that comes forward. There's a lot of people fighting to be on camera right now saying I was abducted, and they think it's some glamorous, like they're going to be famous, rich and famous. And it is not a without great cost to do it. So,
Mm.
So I know that in a couple of weeks in Charlotte, North Carolina, you're going to be speaking at a galactic event with Elena Denon and Emery Smith, who I wanted to make it up there to see you guys. I don't think I'm going to be able to. Can you tell us a little bit about what you guys are going to be doing there?
I am stoked. I'm very happy. Kathy O'Brien is going to be there. She's an MK Ultra and a Beta survivor. She was in high levels of government. She's a whistleblower, and her testimony, her book is a absolute must read for people that. And I went through an MK Ultra trauma based mind programming in the beginning in Inyokern, and she was the testimony that I found back in those days when I was researching. She's an absolute hero to me. I don't idolize a lot of people that are alive. I love us all, and I don't have the big stardom thing. I really don't idolize a lot of people. She's one that I do. I really like Billy Carson. He's speaking there. I've spoken privately with Emery Smith on a few occasions. He's got a great career. I think he's still working at Gaia there, and he's going to have great information that dovetails. Elena Denon is a phenomenon. She's a genius of a person. I've spoken and seen her testimonies on the Federation and life in space, and I have never had any reason to doubt Elena Denon. So I always say it like that. People go, "Can you tell us if that's true or not?" I'm like, I don't know what's going on up there, if it's true or not, but Elena has never given me a reason to doubt her. So she said a lot of things that came true. And so she's going to be there. And then JP is another whistleblower from the secret space program. He's going to remove his mask. He's been
Really?
He's been anonymous and JP's been
Mm.
behind the scenes working with researchers since like 2009. So what is that? 16 years. Am I saying that right?
Wow.
Yeah, 16 years he's been whistleblowing. He's been contributing to our field from behind the scenes. And then he finally got discharged from the army. And now he's finally going to come out. And there were people that it mattered that were still doing missions that he had to be anonymous. And so he's going to take off the mask at GSIG next week. And it's just a great event. I can't think of everybody off the top of my head, but I'm the standouts to me are Kathy O'Brien and Billy Carson's actually had a huge career. He talks about some really cool history stuff.
Mhm.
But I am going to be talking about the technology that I'm working. So the research I'm doing, I've started a website. I'll give you guys a couple shameless promotions. Started a sister company under the Maple Street where I developed audio products that are super effective for many reasons. So I started a sister company called Scion.com, and it links off my website, TonyRodrigues.com. And it's like binaurals and get over depression, get over grief, be motivated, successful, and a suit up one. Like your psychic attack that you were talking about, I made a recording. And it's got little subliminal affirmations. It's got
Mm.
binaurals that take you up into a gamma state of mind, a really alert state of mind. And music, it's like a 30-minute recording. But I've been making these, and it turns out the potential of this method is really, really amazing. Really, there's a lot I'm going to be doing with it in the future. I made a Dream Shield one to protect you, to listen to while you're sleeping, a white noise that can induce a rhythm of REM sleep, and it makes people that had sleep problems listen to it, and they enjoy it. There's people that told me, "Oh man, I haven't dreamt that good in 10 years." And so I've been adding these things. Um, I'm going to
Wow.
present on them. So that technology, we're also going into the lucid dreaming, the remote viewing research. So I can say it now. It's been a secret for the last few months, but my remote viewing groups, we successfully remote viewed data from other people's dreams. So
Wow.
sounds great, woo woo stuff. Sounds like, oh yeah, whatever. You don't understand that that's the opening move in manipulating. So great deal of a conscious mind is a defended mind, and a dreaming mind is an undefended mind. So if we're being manipulated in our dreams, it says a lot. We talked about earlier, but the remote viewing groups I did, we can remote. So I can spy. I can literally spy, or at least I proved that you can. It's not like I got great. Not like I want to see what you're dreaming, but I could. We can spy on somebody's dreams. So we did this. I did it in a pretty scientific way that leaves little wiggle room for doubt. We have pretty good information from several sessions of dreams, and so I'm going to present that. I'm moving into the
Mm.
dream warfare. I think that we've been steered away from our cognitive, our hypnagogic state of mind. Right before you go to bed, when you're kind of zonked out, we don't use it. We don't use that state of mind, but it could be the most powerful one. From all the research and from everything I did, from what I did in Inyo Kern, when they were drugging me in Peru, and when I pulled out all the paperwork and started trying to prove my site, and I found all these thousands of documents, I went for months reading them. The hypnagogic state that we get into when we're meditative or right before we're right at that moment of sleep is extremely powerful. It's an extremely powerful state of mind. Your consciousness may make up as much as 30% of the universe, may be conscious energy, consciousness, which means you can imagine other people trapped in a little room. Alexa, I can imagine things. I can imagine your toe hurting. And over time, your toe will hurt. Why does it, boom, you stub your toe? What's going on here? Because you're an undefended mind. And I know from other experiments, from other things that have happened, that the government does have agents that can insert into your dreams. This is at the high corporate level, the high political level, and the military level, that they are inserting and manipulating people by their dreams. And how many times have you dreamt something and acted on it, right? And, I'll be presenting, I'm going to lead into that on this one. It's the bulk of my work for next year that I'll be presenting the dream warfare. And we're offering courses and things. Veronica, a girl I work with on it on the research end, has started a group. It's called dreamdisclosure.com, and it's a lucid dreaming group. And she's had success with implanting information in a target dreamer. So that group, they get together and they take an image, and the group concentrates on the image, and then somebody is the dreamer for that night, and then the following night they have a dream journal and they say what they dreamt, and lo and behold, it's the same data. And so they've done that a few times in that group, and that's kind of where I'm going. Remote viewing is one thing. I think it's greatly misunderstood. The secret space program is another thing, and that was my testimony for all the years. I'll never turn away. I'll never deny it. But I think the secret space program's coming, whether I talk about it or not now. So we're starting to get disclosure. The other disclosures from those programs that I worked on were consciousness and the things we can do with our minds, which they don't tell us. They don't want you to see it. They don't want you to know. And so I'm going to present on a lot of that stuff, I guess, at GSIC.
I know that some of the soldiers that had some memories, like Jason Rice, I think, he also sounded really truthful to me. You said that you believe so as well. And I know everyone knows about Randy Kramer and everything. Are they helpful working with you and supportive, even though there's, what could appear to be a conflict? How's that going?
So let's talk about this. Let's not only not I don't want to specifically name drop Jason. So Jason Rice actually was threatened. His wife was followed, and he walked away. He called me. We talked every week. We were doing phone calls, and we were planning to work together. We really we were introduced by our producer at Gaia, and we began to talk because when you experience these things, you want to talk to other people that experience it. And Jason was a really great guy to me, and we were really good friends. But they were threatening to sue him. He got doxxed. He was in the, he was in a corporate position, and he lost money over it. So he stepped away. He doesn't speak anymore. He totally disappeared, fell off the radar. Probably a false name. He was probably smart enough to make an alias when he started. So we lost Jason for that reason. Randy Kramer kind of fell off for a while and came back. And I talked to him a week ago. I finally met him in person for the first time. And Randy is very helpful, but he marches to the beat of his own drum. We've seen other people in the field that we've talked about earlier in this show, and ufology as a whole is very fragmented. So is spirituality, right? It's very fragmented. You ask 10 people, they got 10 different opinions. There are many people that are legitimate experiencers that come out and connect some dots. So I'm first to tell you, I don't remember everything about my 20 years. And the longer I go without talking about it, I forget things. I re-forget. You understand, right? So when you ask me like, hey, this page in your book, you were talking about this, I'm like, man, I haven't talked about that in like 4 years. What? Say that again? Read the page to me. Oh, now I remember. So you re-forget. So there are people that don't have all their memories and get in front of a crowd and connect dots. And so there's people that it looks like they're disingenuous. I don't think anybody is. Well, and before I finish this statement, I'll say that they're outright fakes. So they have infiltrated us. The government, especially in the ufology, has infiltrated these conferences and these groups with people that are agents that are false information. And it creates a sense that America is the worst place for the secret space program right now. So anything in Europe, when they open a conference, it sells out in 2 days. Everybody shows up, 1,000 people, like nothing. In America, there are a dime a dozen, and everybody's got all this drama that people go, oh, I like him, but I don't like her. I want to go to this one, but I like them, but this person here is ew. And so they've stoked up all this drama on everybody. And my take is this: fine, don't like them, but you have to take the evidence and make up your own mind. And so we go through a lot of trouble to provide the evidence to do these things. And we're surrounded by people that are outright. There are people that do hypnotism and they hypnotize people and they take their information And then after a year of it, they've got their own secret space program career, and I believe it's stolen information. And what do you call it? There's a lot of shenanigans behind the scenes. And I'm the last few years I've been on the road a lot and I've seen a lot. And I just want to say that the fragmentation of people that don't support each other is fine. I want to say that when you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, if somebody's working together and then all of a sudden they fall out, we're not all meant to get along because we saw an ET. Do you get it what I mean by that? Like just
Mhm.
because I saw a UFO and you saw a UFO doesn't mean we're brother and sister now. It doesn't mean we're best buds. And that's what's really, you got a lot of people. And then after a few years, I gotta tell you that on some of these, some of these, like in the street, I'm just a normal guy. This is me. At a conference, people are coming up to me and just like fans. And so they're telling me that I'm awesome and they're stoking my ego and they're like, Tony, you're the man. Let me buy you a drink. And Tony, you're great. Please sign my book. It's like all this, it's this huge honor. And I gotta say that I am not, it has caused me to buy in, to have some pride, to have some ego. It has inflated my ego. But I don't want to become the guy that I hate with a huge ego. But
Mhm.
some people, it's all ego. They've got these huge big egos, and then if anything happens, any kind of criticism from another speaker, it destroys. They go, "Oh, I can't have it." And we're seeing egos clash. These are human beings, and it's
Mhm.
not normal for human beings to be told that they're awesome 24/7 and have a yes person around them. We know this. We know that the worst people in the world are people that live like that. And we see it in this community. It's like you get people, I think a lot of people didn't have any kind of reinforcement, and then all of a sudden they're on stage and they're getting cheered. And so their egos they don't want to let go. And also there's a shelf life, and you don't want to let go of it. So they need to make new content, and the egos clash. So this community is full of this. The last few years, I think, has been on purpose that it's really clashed. I think there's been a lot of high tech brought against us to make us turn away from the fact that there are ETs above us and the government is already up there. There's already a lot on the moon. There's a lot all through space. We can take ET home. And so what I'm saying is, when you see the fighting behind the scenes or hear the rumors, just don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Don't like me, fine. But I'll tell you what, there's people living inside Ceres right now.
Mhm.
I hope that.
So our human foibles that have been used against us since the beginning of time are going to continue to be used against us in every area. And bottom line is we all have to turn inside and do the work, or we're never going to move forward, you know?
They will use it on us as long as it works. As
Yeah.
And
long
they're
as it
using it
works.
on
They,
everybody. You know,
yeah.
everybody's getting bombarded, even like little old me that has nothing to do with anything.
It's true.
Yeah.
True. If they're, well, I don't know how to think of a metaphor for it, but like I said, if it works, there's no reason for them to change. And if making everybody hate everybody works to get their way, that's what's going to happen. And then, like I said, it's not, it's perfect. It's also perfectly legal after they made it to where they can use, psychological warfare on United States citizens. And I think that's kind of part of it. Now that I mention it, it's probably part of it. It breaks my heart. I'm friends with a lot of people that are experiencers and have testimonies, and it breaks my heart to watch them fight each other. You know.
Mhm.
But you sound really positive about it. And knowledge is power. Knowing that these things exist is half the battle, and then there are tools that you can do to strengthen yourself against it, and that's the ticket, right? I mean, we are sovereign beings and we do get to choose, and while it may be difficult and complicated, there are lots of things you're being bombarded with physically and mentally. You can overcome it. You can do well, right?
Yeah. Well, you have to. You have no other choice. So, feeling despair or feeling angry and saying, "Ah, forget all this," like carrying negative despair or depression or negative outlook is self-defeatist. You really have no other choice but to say, well, that happened. I guess let's see what happens next. I guess I'll be okay. You have to have that positive outlook. It's the only one that
Mhm.
works.
Well, that's what I admire so much about you, because you've really been through the ringer in the most horrible way. And you still have that attitude. You didn't get bitter. You didn't go into a hole. You didn't take yourself out. And those things would all be understandable, not even against your will, not being able to overcome that. And you just do so well. And I've also heard you, what I love so much is the ability to say it's not good and it's not bad. I mean, that's true. That's a true level of enlightenment that you can understand it in theory, how they all fit together and they're necessary and they're all beautiful and necessary, especially in physical reality, the polarity integration, but to actually live it the way you do is amazing. Because even having not been through all the suffering that you've had, most people can't really live that, and you do. So how? How did you get to that point?
That's the biggest thing that I get in trouble for that I talk about. I tell people in my groups that we meet every week, it gets heated. There's been a couple times where it gets like, Tony, there's evil in the world. And I'm like, look, that's part of the programming. Think in your cartoons, in all your books, in all everything, the show, there's a good guy that's always good and a bad guy that's always bad, right? So that you're looking for that behavior. So somebody that acts good to you, you think he's always going to be good. It's bullshit. Sorry about my language. Um, and then people go, well, Tony, you can't say that because evil, there is evil. There is evil. And I'm like, well, define it. Give me something that's evil because I see it as sickness. Because I see what, if you take the most evil person, the most evil person, we can define what they did to make you believe that as a sickness that can be healed or at least quarantined. So we quarantine our evil. They go to jail. It's a quarantine. We put all the people that cannot be healed. They decided long ago that a habitual criminal cannot be healed. Right? What is it? Sweden or whatever, Finland, one of those, Norway. They really work hard to rehabilitate people and they have a good success rate. They heal them. Some of them can't be healed and they go to jail forever. They're quarantined. We treat it like a sickness. That's what evil is. Everybody has a perspective, and your perspective is your struggle with survival. And if my struggle with survival overlaps your struggle for survival, I'm gonna try to push you out of the way so that I can survive, and I'm gonna look like evil to you. And you're gonna look like evil to me. And so the good and bad programming is being used against us. How many people right now are falling for the divide?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So here's the programming, Donald Trump, right? So some people are like, I love him, he's the good guy, he's our savior. He's good. And then a lot of people are like, no, he's evil. Oh my God, how could you even think about supporting? Get that hat off your head, get out of here. He's evil. Well, he's neither. He's a human like me and you. He's neither. He's not the super perfect person. Yes, he was a womanizer billionaire in his 20s and 30s. Why wouldn't he be? Right? So that was not great. He's a human. He made mistakes. And he's good. He's doing things for pro-America. Those things that he's doing for pro-America are bad for China. They're bad for the Ukraine. His policies are bad for people too. It depends on your perspective because of your own personal struggle for survival. That's what good and evil is. And people need to let go of this ultimate evil and this ultimate good because it gets in the way of actually living your life. Sorry, I'm preachy. I feel preachy. I'm sorry.
Oh, I love it. Like, woo,
No,
exactly. It's very profound and helpful. Man, I hope a lot of people get that message. That was amazing. So I want you to give the dates of your upcoming event in North Carolina, the Galactic event. What's it called and what are the dates?
The date is the 18th through the 22nd. I'll be going to Charlotte, North Carolina. It's at the Le Meridian Hotel. It's the Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection. It's headed off by Danny Henderson. She puts on a great party. That's a hell of a show. That's a really good one. I don't have another one for a while. In November, I'm off to Dubai for the GDX show. And I have a few lined up for next year that are tentative. So I'm going to start speaking less and less in public because I'm transitioning into the companies that I started.
Mhm.
And I really always want to do interviews as much as I can. I think it's important to reach new people, but I found that a lot of the conferences are disingenuine. And so this one, the GSIC one, is one of the best as far as they really care about the mission, which is telling people these truths, like sharing the mission itself. They're not trying to just get attention. And so I really love Danny and what she's doing in this conference, and the caliber of speakers is very high. I'm very proud to be back. This is my fourth one that I'll be speaking at. There's a few other ones that are in town that are really good, but I tell you what, I hit a lot of other smaller conferences that just were, it was a rope-a-dope. It was just a treadmill. And they did not care about the mission. They did not care about the speaker or the viewer in the situation. They're just profit capturing machines, and they're infiltrated with, there's a lot of CIA people that are false testimonies out there. So beware, be advised. Don't take what I'm saying as verbatim. Don't take what anybody says as verbatim. Be skeptical. Be skeptical.
Mhm.
Research it.
Alexa, is there anything else you want to say?
This has been really, really wonderful. I don't know. I am not much in this world. So this is fascinating to me. And I appreciate your vulnerability and your humbleness and, the ease of connection that you have. So I really appreciate, everything you share. And I was seeing if there was I already said the biggest question I had. So yeah. And I'm excited to dig in and find out more about what you're doing going forward, because I'm a massage therapist of 30 years. And so sound is, where it is for me.
There are
And
healing sounds. There are healing sounds. I want to touch on that. Is that there are sounds that are along the same frequency? Your cells give off an electrical signal when they divide. So the cells go through the mitosis or whatever, and then they slowly divide. And at the moment they divide and become individual, there's an electrical signal that comes out. And there's a frequency, and you can tune into that sound frequency. And I do static electricity. And what it does is it fools your cells into thinking they just divided, and it's very therapeutic. It works. It's like a healing. It's a mild healing thing. And I can't say, I am not medical advice or financial advice. Tony Rodrigues is
right.
patreon.com, all that stuff is not healing, like I don't want to get sued. What I'm saying is there's a therapeutic quality to certain frequencies, ultimately.
And they can find that at your TonyRodrigues.com.
Yes, I started the sister company that's based on those frequencies at Psion.com, Psion.com. And I'm going to be pushing that site in the future. In the coming months, I'm going to make commercials and stuff. But there's a lot of things. There's also a hypnotic deprogrammer I'm working on, people that get butchered hypnotic jobs. And you think about it, if you got hypnotized and then all of a sudden somebody else says the guy that hypnotized you hypnotized me, and he was unscrupulous. He took my money and he programmed me to give him money at a command. You would think, what do I do now? What do I do? So I've made it's elaborate too. It's like 20 days of work, 7-part series, but it's a deprogrammer to clear the slate from hypnosis and from programming. I'm making a deprogramming, which I haven't heard many of them exist. So all the programming that we talked about from the media and everything, I'm making products that'll deprogram it.
Well, and speaking of deprogramming, you need to take back my foot issue and my,
Oh,
cage
sorry.
and
Yeah,
all
I
that.
just saw all that, and now you're like, whoop. Yeah. Well, that was an example. I would never do that to you. And
No, I know, but I
um,
work in the language of healing as well, and so every word that we say shows up.
yes.
So I'm like, let's just clean that out.
Wait, does it go away if you say just kidding?
Depends on how kidding you are.
I'll tell you what, I sure do apologize if something does happen to your toe in the future.
It won't.
I certainly apologize. I wanted to do that because there are people out there that legitimately have ill intent for other people by using psychic means, and it's terrible. It's just a matter, and to me, they're not evil, they're immature. It's a lack of maturity to try to sit around to spend your time wishing for something bad to happen to another human being. It shows that your life is missing something. It's immaturity. Yeah.
Very much so. And it's also very immature to deny the reality of everything that Tony has talked about and to pretend that you live in this fake world where we're all getting beat up and kicked around and destroyed and used and abused, instead of growing up and addressing the truth, whether you like it or not. You know, I mean, it is what it is. Ignorance is not bliss. And if you want to, you know, go forward with your head held high and us, you know, have us evolve it all, we need to acknowledge these truths. We need to look at the new technologies. You need to be open-minded, do it for yourself, for your kids, for your grandkids, so we can make a better world. Okay. So on that note, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tony. You're the best. That was really cool.
Thank
I
you.
hope maybe you can come back, because I know Alberto's totally heartbroken that he couldn't be here, because he really wanted to talk to you. So maybe in the future we can do another one. Thanks, Alexa. You're the best. I love you all very much. Have a good night. Bye.
Thank you so much, Tony.
Thank you.
Have a great night, Tony.
You too.